Hi, good morning. It's fantastic to be here with Sherry Bevan, the Confidence Guide. Now, I first met Sherry in a completely different capacity, actually, as a runner rather than as a coach or anything, which I think is a great basis for any relationship, personal or business. So that's fantastic. And it's been really good fun working with Sherry over the last year or so on content strategy, and more recently on her book, The Confident Mother, which is going to be coming out in September. So without more ado, I'll hand over to you now, Sherry. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business and about your book and about you?
Okay, so I'm a runner, first and foremost, had to get that
Yay!
in. So a bit about me. So I work as a coach and a mentor. I'm now an author and a speaker as well. I work with women who are looking to rebuild their confidence and kind of reassert their identity after having children. So a lot of the women that I work with have taken a career break and are looking to get back into the workplace, and sometimes it's because they want to get back into work and not quite sure how to do it. Sometimes it's because they know that the job they were doing before isn't what they want to do now, and so they're looking for a change of career. But very often the women I work with are actually looking to set up their own business as well, because it's more flexible, gives them more independence, more creativity to work around their family life.
It's amazing actually how becoming a mother just sort of changes so many things at so many different levels in your life, isn't it?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think once you become a mother, everything changes. It's very different, and that's why I love doing what I do, because I think very often we become almost submerged in ourselves, as in our identity as a mother, and forget that we're a, we're women too, and that's what I help to bring out in women, is help them to kind of refine themselves almost.
Brilliant. And what made you want to write a book?
Oh my goodness. Well, back in January, so I've been running my own business now for 3 years, and when I first set up, I was mostly working with law firms, helping them with their customer service strategy and working on their service desk and working with the non-lawyers in law firms. But for years, and literally I mean years, before I started my own business, I'd always been working with women in a voluntary capacity, and at work, the head of HR used to send women down to see me after, if they'd announced that they were pregnant, they'd send them down to the head of IT, because she knew that I knew about giving birth and breastfeeding and home birth and all that sort of thing. So I've worked with women for years. I'm a breastfeeding counsellor as well, so I work with new mums, all the time. And I knew that women didn't really, women lose confidence very often, after giving birth, after having children. And I wanted women to know that you don't need to be the perfect mother, that good enough really is good enough. And I wanted to reach as many people as possible. And so I developed this online conference in January and invited some 20 odd amazing speakers and had an absolute ball and was completely shattered at the end of it. But it was my way of getting the message out there. Good enough really is good enough. You don't need to be the perfect mother. You don't need to do it all. And then somebody I met at a networking meeting suggested to me, "Oh, so you're going to write a book from that, are you?" And I thought, no. And then, of course, the seed had been planted. That yes, and I know a friend who's a runner who's very good at that sort of stuff, and so the Confident Mother, the book was born.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? How these things have their own momentum and sort of take off in new directions once you get going. Just that first step.
Right, exactly. And, obviously I'd worked with you last year as well when I was first looking at a book for my law firm side of the business, and didn't really find the right book idea. But of course now I've started on The Confident Mother, I can't stop,
Well,
which
it
is
sort of evolved
great.
into that conversation, didn't it? It was actually, do you know what? This is not the focus of the business. This is a different
Yes,
thing. So yeah,
yes. And it's
exciting.
taken me um, a little while, well, 2.5 years, to realise that where I need to focus my business is on working with women, and I know I love working with law firms. I really enjoy that side of my work, and I still do that work. But working with women just gives me so much more satisfaction and such a buzz, and it's so exciting when you see women really start to blossom and flourish and to go out into the world and do what they're good at doing.
And do you know what? This is such a key point actually for people who are thinking about writing a book, because so often people come to me and say, I want to write this book. And one of the things that I always talk about is always backing up a bit about, well, why do you want to write this book and how does it fit with what you want in the business? And actually, quite often, like you, many people end up writing a completely different book. And it's really important about writing the right book.
Yes,
Really.
absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think, like anything in life, if you're writing the right book, then it's so much easier. It flows so much more
so much more fun.
easily, and and I'm finding that with writing this book that I'm using a lot of the knowledge and the experience and the research that I have done over the past sort of 13 years since
Mm.
I've been studying. I mean, I've always been a strong feminist. I've honestly always been studying women's issues ever since I became a teenager, really, because I've always been quite fascinated in this topic. And so, I'm going back to readings and research and papers that I read years and years ago. So it's fantastic to bring all of this knowledge
It's
and
all
all of this
coming in
information
together.
together.
Yeah, fantastic. So, how's that process of? I mean, obviously, the research is such a huge part of it, isn't it? And that background reading and bringing all those strands
Yes.
together. So, how's that whole process of sort of planning and writing worked for you?
um, well, I have to say, your tea time program, your expert author program, has been fantastic, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be at the state or the stage that I'm at now.
I wouldn't be in the state I'm in.
Take, take that how you want. If it hadn't been for that program, because I think that's what's given me. I mean, I know other people who are writing books and who've been writing them for years, and I think what the expert author program gives you is that structure around which to build your book so that you know the things you need to think about so that you don't spend forever doing, because I could spend years researching this because it's a fascinating topic, but I don't want to spend years. I want to get the book published. I want to get that message out to people. So I think what the expert author program has done for me is to give me that structure and to help me to understand what I need to think about when writing a book. And it's been great because I've done lots of brainstorming with myself, and I have done some research, but not tons, because I've done the research over the past 20 odd years. It's a topic I'm fascinated by, so I'm always reading books about being a mother and parenting and women's issues and that sort of thing. So there wasn't a great deal of research, and because I'm using a lot large excerpts from the interviews that I conducted for The Confident Mother, then I'm doing some research, kind of background information, if you like. But really, for me, the most important part was getting the structure so that I've got it to hang off.
Mm. So that you know when you sit down what it is that you're focusing on today.
Yes, well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say I always know what I'm going to focus on today, because sometimes I just grab a post-it note from my board and think, right, I'll write about this today. But other times I think, today I've really got to write about being absolutely present with your children. So it depends. Sometimes I'll grab a post-it note. Other days I will think, I've absolutely got to write this piece today.
And you've got both those frameworks that can work for you. We should just explain that in the Expert Author Programme, we do quite a lot of the freestyle stuff, a lot of post-its, a lot of
Yes.
brainstorming, and then pulling it together into a structure and a very detailed table of contents. So you can sort of, depend how you feel that day, you can be a bit more freestyle or a bit more
Yes,
structured.
and no doubt that will show up when it comes to the editing part, as to which piece of the book was written more freestyle and which bit of the book was written in a more structured fashion. Perhaps, I don't know.
Was there anything that really surprised you about the actual writing of the book or the process of planning it?
Um, I'm going to say how easy it is, and I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek, because I think if someone had said to me, you need to write a book and you need to write it by September, I'd have thought, oh my goodness, how on earth do I tackle that? But I think having that structure makes it easier. Um, Getting and thinking about the purpose of the book, and what's the purpose for me, for my message, and for my business. So knowing why I'm writing this book is really important. And one of the first things I did in this whole process was to develop a vision board for my book.
Mm.
Whereas, you know, I see my book on a bookshelf, I see it going out all over the world, and I see my book up on the bookshelf next to people like Rachel Cusk, Amy Stadler, Margot Sunderland. And so having that vision for me was a really important, powerful part. So I think in some ways it's been easier than, following a structure has been easier than I expected. Um, but also the actual writing of his, in some respects, has been harder than I thought, because you can't just come up with a structure. You've actually got to write the words too.
Yeah, that's true.
And and sometimes that can be time consuming, and sometimes it just doesn't flow the way that you want it to. Um, but other times I've been quite surprised because I've been able to just sit down and I use the Pomodoro technique. So I use the Tomato Time, an online Pomodoro app, and so that gives me 25 minutes to focus on a particular chapter, and I do find that I can just knock out 800 words in those sort of 25 minutes. So in some ways, the things I've found easy have also been the things I've found hard.
Yeah, no, I know it's really interesting, isn't it? And it's easy and hard are such bald terms.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be easy, but you can end up sweating at the end of it.
Yes. And there's always that thing, because obviously now we've come up with a timeline and a word count for each week, and which I'm not looking at that word count because I know I'm not on top of it, but I also know that I work quite well to deadlines, and so I know that word count will be there by the date. So I'm not stressing about it too much.
It's just a straight line. Your actual progress is never going to be a straight line, is it?
Exactly. And also, it's school holidays right now, so I know that during school holidays I might not get as much written as I would like to, and if I've got a very busy week with clients, then obviously the word count goes down. But then on the other hand, the word count perhaps goes up on the weeks where it's a quiet week for client work. So I just know more or less what I need to achieve each.
And it's sort of like business in general, isn't it? You have your goals, you know what you're going to do, and then you've got to be sort of resilient and flexible and just manage the progress on the
Yes, and I think what I've found important is to block out time every single day for the book, even if I don't actually use that time because it gets consumed with other things. I know that coming towards the end of the process and the deadline that we've discussed for me handing over the script to you, I know that I shall be maximising that hour or two every single day. And my family will know that I'm writing a book. They're all supportive, they're all encouraging me, and I think they appreciate that towards the end of that deadline, or as we get closer to the deadline rather, that I shall be immersed in the book. And I'm looking forward to that in some ways because, for me, this is a really powerful message that I want to get out to every woman.
Nothing like a deadline, eh?
Nothing like a deadline.
So we've talked about a few tools there. You talked about the post-it notes. We love post-it notes. We talked about the Pomodoro timer, which I think I agree, it's a fantastic productivity tool. The fact that you sort of use your diary to block out the hour a day. Are there any other sort of systems or techniques or tools that you've used that you would recommend to other people?
I use Evernote for a lot of my kind of research. So I keep, and that's another free application, and that allows me to kind of list all the different websites that I've looked at, or perhaps take out particular quotes from books that I've read that I think will be, not necessarily that I'll use in the book, but perhaps kind of inform my understanding or reading of certain aspects of being a mother. So Evernote's been really useful for me. In my Word document, I've used Word for years and have compared to most people, have a very high literacy level when it comes to Office because that's what I used to do. I worked in technology. So I do use Word and I do use headings and styles. And so all my chapter headings are already written out in Word. And so when I come to sit down, if I haven't got immediate inspiration of what piece I'm going to write today, then I'll look at my outline view and just pick a chapter heading and just go for it. So those tools have been very useful. And I can't think what else. And with the post-it notes, I would say get lots of them. And the other thing that I found really helpful was that my post-it notes, originally I'd stuck them all to the wall, to a whiteboard, in fact, that was on the wall, and they just kept falling off and were kind of, I was getting a bit of cross-fertilisation because I was developing a workshop at the same time, which actually wasn't to do with motherhood, and so little bits about breastfeeding was slipping into this confidence workshop. Maybe that shouldn't be there. So sticking your post-it notes on flip chart paper is the best tip. I think it was you actually, Alison, that shared that one with me. That's made such a huge difference to my sanity levels.
And it's quite useful because it means it's more portable. You can roll it up then and take it into another room or take it to work with someone else.
Yes. So I have it on a portable whiteboard, and this board, the post-it notes are still up, even though I'm much more advanced with the book, but the post-it notes are still there, and every now and again I'll go and look at it and just have a little ponder as I'm looking at my post-it notes, and sometimes think, what on earth did I mean by that?
Well, What does that even say?
Yeah, I can't even read my own handwriting. And of course, my daughter, my youngest daughter in particular, because she plans to be an author when she, well, not when she grows up. She's an author now, um,
Absolutely.
and she, I can see sometimes that the handwriting's not mine; it's her ideas about what being a good mother is all about, and those
That's
ones have slipped onto the
amazing.
board as well.
Isn't that lovely?
Oh,
So
it's
there's no,
great! It's great.
you'll have to credit her as co-author.
Yes, well, maybe not.
That's
Don't want to
wonderful.
take in all my glory. Hers is to come.
And what other tips or advice might you give to somebody who's watching this, a business owner, an entrepreneur who's thinking about writing a book? What might you say to them?
I think if you're thinking about writing a book, getting a coach, somebody like you who's got that coaching experience combined with the publishing and the book experience, I think is absolutely invaluable. I think, and what I love and hate about working with you at the same time, Alison, is that you don't let me get away with kind of fluffiness. It's always it's always kind of like very focused and keeps me very focused, which of course you need to be when you're writing a book and when you're writing it to a fairly, I don't know if it's a tight deadline, but it feels like an uncomfortable deadline sometimes. So I think working with somebody who can give you that structure, because I didn't know the first thing about writing a book. I'm a bookworm and I've got hundreds and hundreds of books and I know what a book looks like, but how on earth to start writing one, and the things to think about. So I already have Dame Sarah Story's already agreed to write my foreword. Well, that would have never occurred to me in a million years to get that up front. So it's just those little tips and tricks on how to approach things and what to think about, I think I would imagine that often as a business owner, you might start to write a book because it sets out your expert authority, and you're always hearing from business circles that writing a book is a good thing to do. But I think you've got to have that purpose and that focus for the book. You've got to know where it fits into your content strategy. You've got to know how it's going to serve you as a business owner and how it will serve your business, but also how it will serve your customers or your clients or in my case, how it's going to serve mothers. So I think that's difficult to get on your own. And that's obviously the beauty and the power of coaching. I mean, as a coach myself, I love coaching people, and I enjoy being coached as well, because it opens your mind up to so much more and opens your mind up to potential that perhaps you don't realise you've got inside you.
Yeah, brilliant. Beautifully put. Thank you. That was fantastic. That was so interesting. Thank you so much, Sherry. Is there anything you'd like to share with us just before we finish?
By my book comes out the 17th of September, of course. I guess for me, I am a typical working mum in that I'm juggling work, life, family, husband fits in there somewhere as well. I'm running, and I think the most important message I have is the message I want to give to all mothers all over the world is good enough is good enough. You don't have to be the perfect mother. You don't have to do it all. Focus on what's most important for you, and that's my message to everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sherry. That was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Alison.
And I hope you've enjoyed it too if you're watching at home. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about writing a book for your business, then feel free to get in touch with me. It's alison@alisonjones.com, or have a look at the Expert Author Programme on my website, alisonjones.com. And you can book a free 30-minute session with me and we can talk about how a book could work for your business. So thank you again, Sherry. Great to talk to you. And I look forward to getting that book soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.